Well, it is 7 p.m., so welcome everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, everybody. So my name is Michael Lopez Patton. I am the Associate Vice President of Admissions here at Pacific Oaks College. Just want to welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us at 7 p.m. on your evening here with us. We are going to get started. I'm going to just bring up our introduction screen so that we can go ahead and introduce ourselves to you and hopefully give you an opportunity to get to know us. This is definitely an open conversation, so we will have some slides that we'll be sharing, but we would love for you to be able to just have an open conversation with us. If you're comfortable being on camera or in the audio, please do so. If you're not so comfortable with that, by all means, we do have a chat box. So if you just type into the chat, we're also welcome to interact with you that way as well. So welcome to everyone. Again, we want to welcome our guest. The main person who is here to speak with us about human development is Dr. Carlene Fider.
Hey.
Hello,
Hello.
good evening, or it's night. I'm not quite sure where everyone is calling in from, but good to have everyone here this evening. Looking forward to this conversation.
And, we also have Dr. Judy Castro, who is here to join us. Dr. Castro.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Dr. Judy Castro. I'm the AVP of Partnership Development. I'm also responsible for the implementation of a Hispanic Serving Institution grant that was just awarded to Pacific Oaks by the Department of Education. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to welcome you tonight as well.
Well, again, everyone, thank you for being here. We, as you know, our group might be growing as we speak, but again, we are hoping that you feel comfortable to just speak with us, ask questions. Again, we're going to be bringing up just some slides to present some information, but it's really there to prompt the conversation and the dialogue with us. So we want to be able to make sure that you have an opportunity to interject questions and comments. You might say something that sparks another comment from somebody else, and it might just be a really engaging conversation. But we are going to be presenting a little bit specific for you as well, just about the degree program, our master's degree in human development. So any questions that you might have about that, feel free to ask those as well, because we certainly want to make sure that you feel like you had some value out of being here this evening and got an opportunity to learn something that you hadn't heard yet about either the college, the field, or this degree program. So you can see what we have up there, what we're going to be covering this evening. Of course, just the study of human development in general. Why is that important? For those of you maybe who have not studied human development in the past, we'll talk a little bit about what that is in general and what that looks like specifically at the graduate level, if you maybe did study human development during your undergraduate studies. And we want to talk about the career pathways, what this degree can do for you. And then I think it's always kind of funny that I put that bullet point there, a discussion with Dr. Fider and our guests, etc. But I will say that at any point, we don't need to wait until that last bullet point to have this open conversation. We want to make sure that this is just an open dialogue for you. So welcome to everyone. Welcome to Dr. Fider and everyone. And I am going to bring up just the first slide just to kind of start our topic here about human development in general. So we'll turn it over to our expert, Dr. Fider.
Thank you again, Mr. Lopez Patton, and everyone, again, thank you so much for joining us. A little bit about me, and then we'll get into the material on this slide. As was mentioned, my name is Carlene Fider. I am an immigrant. I was born on the beautiful island of Jamaica, and for those of you who have never been, feel free to visit. They're really adhering to great COVID guidelines, so if you can visit now, feel free to do so.
Yeah.
I migrated to the United. You've been?
No, but I want to go. But but it's true. But my aunt has been there. My family is from New Orleans, and a lot of them are now in France. So this is Cedric. So my aunt went, but she told me exactly what you said. So yeah, I agree. I need to go.
Yes, please do. Schedule that in, maybe your 2021 plans, 2022 plans. Please make an effort to go. You'll thoroughly enjoy yourself. I migrated to the United States 16 or so years ago, where I attended Loma Linda University. I got my master's in marital and family therapy and then my PhD in family studies. And since graduating in 2011, I've been working exclusively in higher education. One of my passions when I think about higher ed is helping students become leaders and researchers. I'm a real research nerd, students have called me, because I think research is so important as we think about individuals' processes. And when you think about the Masters in Human Development, you have an opportunity to contribute to the field of human development in a very unique and specific way because of the advanced knowledge that you'll be getting, and the preparedness that you will have to be a leader in the field of human development. You stand in a very wonderful place to be able to really contribute significantly to what this field will look like moving forward. So when we think about why human development and why individuals may be interested, it's the gamut. You see those pictures that we have on the slide. They're individuals of varying ages, varying races, likely varying experiences. And we have an opportunity as human developmentalists to understand a little bit about where they're coming from, their developmental processes in childhood, how that impacts when they're going through things like puberty and beyond, how it impacts their decisions regarding career or even mate selection, because human development can even help you figure things like that out. You know, who are people choosing to be partners with? All those sorts of things are part and parcel of human development. When we think also of maybe career changes that some of you may be considering because you're here this evening, understanding the trajectory and the path that will take as well is important. When people get to the stage of thinking about retirement, or when they're becoming grandparents, when they're becoming parents, all of those transitions in life is what human development will cover. We have great opportunities to get into material that looks at literally every single life transition from a lens that will empower individuals, provide them with opportunities to become advocates, will allow them to not just advocate for themselves, but for other individuals in their environments and in their communities. So that is why I think human development is important. Just one reason, or that was maybe 3 reasons why human development is important, and why this degree itself could be something that you'd enjoy doing.
So I have a question for the group, just to kind of spark a little bit of dialogue with us, and that is, for those of you who are coming here, we're assuming you're looking to pursue a master's degree in a graduate program. Talk to us about, and you can type in the chat box if you would like, or if you do feel comfortable, just kind of saying out there, what did you study in your undergraduate work, and then just kind of briefly, what's kind of driving you towards human development for your graduate program? I'm seeing everybody kind of looking at their keyboard, so I'm assuming we've got some typing that's happening. So we might be able to get some of that. And I like seeing the dialogue as well when we have comments and things in the chat box. Child development, Claudia says. So excellent.
I'll chime in, Michael.
Sure.
I got my bachelor's degree in liberal studies back in 2005 from San Jose State. I've been in my field for quite some time now, so I'm looking to just further my career.
Excellent. So we've got liberal studies, child and adolescent development, child development, early childhood education, and with trauma studies, human development and women's gender studies. Excellent. Elementary education. So we have a good group of individuals, it sounds like, that have had some focus in the early years. Child development and English literature. I love that one. I was an English major for my bachelor's degree, so I always get excited when I see anybody that's done English lit or composition. So always like a fellow English person there. So we have a great group. So when we look at that, then why human development now? So again, kind of same, if you want to type in those questions or your answers into that, or if you want to speak out loud in there, but why move into human development following where you've come from in your undergraduate studies?
Well, I have to say about this, Michael. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I think for me, it's to be a better, a better educator. For me overseas, because I just came back from China, so I've been there for years. So educating and teaching, I started with 4 3-year-olds, and now I'm at doing university teaching. So for me, it's an extension because I graduated from LMU in art history and English, then worked in arts and education, and built that and started developing teaching at LA Opera, and then using that kind of creative dramatic side to instill confidence to students, especially young children who will be very shy and very taken back. So for me, it's more of extending that and going to not only master's but PhD level. So yeah, it's a heavy extension, I think, for me. That's why I would like to further studies in human development. Yeah.
Excellent.
Absolutely. And can we get your name?
Cedric Drake.
Cedric. Okay, thank you, Cedric.
I'm sorry I'm by phone. It's just noisy.
No need to apologize. You're here, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
So, and curious about anybody else who might want to contribute in that, just to that question of why now human development?
Hello, my name is Claudia. I did child development for my bachelor's degree, and I have worked with 0 to 5 for several years, coming almost to 20 years. So I'm interested in learning and working more on finding out more information about adolescents and adults. I would love to teach adults or parents and help them learn about their children and help them grow as an individual. So I did the child development of children. So now I'm going to go more to our lifespan and teach other adults.
Thank you, Fabia. I have a passion for parent education as well. It's one of the things that I enjoy doing, and human development is certainly something that you can use to get into that field, to help parents understand their children, kind of how to, in terms of attachment and how to foster that healthy attachment. When we think about things like punishment or rewarding and understanding, because when we think about individuals from minority communities, sometimes there's a little bit of trauma attached to how we do parenting, and providing them with better alternatives and an awareness of this child as an individual versus an extension of who they are, and all of those things can really, I think that would be really impactful for you when you think about parent education and a degree in human development, for sure.
I also really like what Leslie added in there about now having that ECE trauma knowledge, but now looking more in depth at just human development in general. I think that's a great compliment to what you've done previously, Leslie. I like that.
And we do have a specialization in leadership in the MA program in human development too. That seems to maybe that could potentially work for you well, Leslie, when you think about your goals. Yeah, and I see you nodding. Can't hear you. Catchphrase of 2020 is you're on mute.
Well, I am not changing the subject. I'm going to bring up another slide that starts to talk a little bit about what we can do.
Yes.
But let's continue the conversation. Just another few little prompts in there to maybe just spark a little bit more of the dialogue for us this evening. But I love that it sounds like with some of the established knowledge that individuals here have from undergraduate studies and even just in life experience, it sounds like that master's in human development now is such a great complement to what you've done. Just broaden and expand your perspective with the individuals that you are or want to work with.
And so as we think about some of those potential careers, and both Leslie, Claudia, and Cedric have alluded to these in terms of what they want to do. And I'm thinking about work with me for a second, because you notice how different those degree pathways, those professional pathways are. But a degree in human
Yeah.
development can lead you to all of those outcomes, which is what is
Yeah.
amazing about a degree in human development. You can work with parents, you can work with children to make them, to foster additional skill sets in them, and therefore then hone their skills to be more, to channel them in different directions. You can work specifically in leadership,
Yeah.
given your background. And there are so many things that you can do with a master's in human development, because the aim is
And
to allow you to become a leader in the field where you are not only consuming knowledge, but you're creating knowledge as well to
hmm
support whatever demographic you have opportunities to work with.
hmm yeah.
I thought I heard someone going to ask a question. No?
No.
So
Okay.
as you are looking at these, and again, these are just samples, of course, of what you're capable of there. What are your thoughts? And I think I see some people that are starting to type here. But what are your thoughts of that? So I like this one.
Leslie, I'm looking forward to teaching you. Looking forward to this.
I love that. So for those who aren't able to view the chat, maybe because if you're on a phone or if you're using
Yeah.
the comment that is that choosing HD with leadership because of the versatility there.
Yeah.
And that's a great purpose there, because human development is so broad. And we had a little talk about that with some of the individuals earlier that were talking about our bachelor's program and just the versatility of human development.
Leslie, do you mind if I ask you a specific question? When you think about leadership, what do you see yourself doing in terms of that concentration with leadership for the MA and HD?
I think about working more in a leadership administration type of role. If not in a public school system with education background, maybe in a trauma setting or in social services to help make sure that services are given to people maybe of low income, elderly, homeless, any of those services that are always needed. I've always done work as a volunteer. In my earlier high school years, I was a teen mom. So I want to say at 16, I was teen leadership for Occidental College, and I used to go to a youth home to talk to a lot of the young girls and let them know how it is to be a teen mom. And then for my senior year, I was also in the humanitarian club. So I've always had a passion for helping
Thank
people.
you.
Wow.
Impressive,
So cool.
Leslie. Absolutely impressive.
And also, from 2011 to 2014, I became a HUD housing counselor. And even though I worked on the first-time home buyer and foreclosure spectrum, I was the one that created in my nonprofit counseling for renters.
Oh.
So there was a lot of people that were homeless, and I just took it upon myself to create a resource guide and did my homework to help a lot of these people that just didn't know who to go to.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Leslie.
No problem.
Yes, this is, yes, I'm certainly hoping that I'll get to see you in a classroom very, very soon,
Yes,
for
I hope
multiple
so.
reasons. One is because of the knowledge that you're bringing, the knowledge base that you'll bring into the master's program, I think will be exquisite, given the diversity of that background. And what I'm really excited about, given where you want to go, is what you could potentially do with your fieldwork project and your thesis. Man,
Yeah.
I have plans for us.
I have a lot. Like, if I've lived many lives, I've lived a whole lot in a short lifespan. I also just adopted my 4-year-old grandson, so I've gone through the whole trauma and the court system alone with children, but also with my grandson. So I have a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience to share with people.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Leslie.
Wow.
Well, I do have just one quick request, and it happens, we're in Zoom, and this is 2020. I think we've all experienced it. If everyone could, when you're not directly speaking, if you could mute, just so that we have some background noise that we're hearing. So just if everybody could monitor that. Again, it's 2020 and we're all in the Zoom world, so we kind of understand. So if everybody could just do that. But thank you. I'm loving this, actually. So. But you, Dr. Fider, you mentioned the thesis, and that was a great transition into our next piece here to bring up as a point of a topic for us to discuss. So I'm going to bring that up so that you can kind of introduce that piece.
Absolutely. The thesis is, and for some of you and maybe most of you who completed your undergrad, there was maybe a capstone project that you had to do that was a research-based potentially. And even when I looked at the disciplines that you're coming from, it's very likely that you had a research type paper to complete. When we think about the thesis process at Pacific Oaks, which I oversee, it provides students an opportunity to collate research that exists, that it looks at areas of their topic, their chosen topic, and then actually conduct research in specific fields. One of the things that I really admire about, that drew me to Pacific Oaks, is this idea of advocacy. Again, advocating for self and advocating for others. And so our theses will have that element. The students who do theses here in our master's program, their topics tend to be very near and dear. And on the slide, you'll see some of the specific topics given the career paths that individuals have chosen. But these are topics that are near and dear to students. I actually, just before we got on this call, well, before the last one, I was working with a student who's looking specifically at first generation Latinx females and their trauma that was embedded in their own parenting as they grew up, and how that has translated into how they navigate their own parenting style with their child or their children. And for her, it's very personal because of what she lived and also what she saw people in her community live as well. And so when we think about the fact that the thesis gives you an opportunity to look into, to really investigate some of these things that are concerns to you, that you're like, man, I think this is what is happening here, but I'm not quite sure why or how. Let me have these conversations with people to see what their needs are. And then from that, we've had students who've written books. We've had students who have written workshops, who've created programs because of the data that they've collected from their theses, to therefore then benefit those communities that they're coming from, to give them voice, to advocate for them, to help them, like you were mentioning, Leslie, understand kind of the routes they need to take. One gentleman I remember looked specifically at fast food workers and how they understand English language learners and their understanding of the documents that they signed for employment specific to health benefits. And what he did from his thesis, he created a manual for a local McDonald's to help their employees understand what all of these very law-like terms mean, so that when they're signing these documents for health benefits, they know exactly what it means. And this all came from his thesis, being able to create that pamphlet, that guide to help individuals understand, even when we think about in the service industry, which we may overlook, but not now anymore because everybody's relying on them, help those individuals understand, no, you are critical to the running of this community. And we need you to know what you're signing up for. And so he went, interviewed, did an amazing job helping them understand exactly what they were signing up for, and was able to create this pamphlet to support them. And that's what your research can do. Really open doors for communities that may not have access to certain things, and give them that access and certainly give them that voice. Research is my everything. I will be at Pacific Coast for a long time, but if you don't see me, it's because I'm off in France doing some research.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I like France, by the way, one of my favorite cities.
France is it's amazing.
I'm going to the south of France one day when COVID allows. I'll be heading to the south of France.
Oh, good. Yes, wonderful.
So, Dr. Fider, perhaps if someone here is not familiar with what is a thesis, what does that entail? Can you talk about the process of the development of and the writing and completion of a thesis?
Absolutely. So thesis is an original work body of research. There are 5 chapters when you think about the Pacific Oaks thesis. The very first chapter gives you an opportunity to talk about why this project is important to you. So what is your personal connection to the topic that you've chosen? Is it because you work in the field, you've had experience in the field? Is it because of something that you observed, a challenge that you had? I have a student who's writing now about parents who are teachers, well, yeah, teachers who are also parents, and their ability to work successfully remotely because they are not only teaching other people's children, well, they have to be there for their own children. So kind of that transition, so it could be a current event, something that happened in the past. Think about your personal connection to this topic, and you'd have an opportunity to write about that in chapter 1. The second chapter is about going to the literature. What have other people said about this topic? So if they're theorists, who are those people? Those key individuals who have written about this specific topic, you'll be able to create a narrative about their work. What are they saying? What are they thinking that the particular variables are? Why is this? How did they go about conducting their study? What are the outcomes of their specific study? And that's what you'd present in chapter 2 to create a framework for understanding your own chosen topic. Chapter 3 is a matter of writing your methodology. So how are you going to go about collecting this data, analyzing it? Where are you going to find these participants? I should mention that we typically at Pacific Oaks, we do more qualitative research, and qualitative research looks at interviewing individuals or having observations. We also are doing a lot of participatory action research where individuals are looking at programs, evaluating those programs, and then creating solutions, if you would, or other paths for those programs to take, again, benefiting their community. And for all of those projects, you'd be required to complete an ethics review just to be sure that human subjects are being protected. Your chair will walk you through it. It's really not as terrible as it sounds. Some students are terribly intimidated, and I'm like, but look at me. I'm lovely. I would never put you through anything terrible. Can't you trust this face? Then for your 4th chapter, you'd have an opportunity. That is when you'd be getting down to having those interviews and those conversations with people to understand their experiences. And if you may, I'll talk a little bit about my own research process, because I did qualitative research when I was a graduate student. I was specifically interested in looking at physicians and their non-physician spouses. And the reason that that was kind of personal for me is because I was born in Jamaica, as I mentioned, and though neither of my parents happened to be a physician, they both worked outside the home for all my life. I don't remember a single day that my mom was home with my older sister, myself. And during my undergrad studies, I remember reading a lot of documents, that a lot of research that said, oh, if we don't have the mom in the house, and it was very gender biased, but if we don't have the mom in the house, these kids are going to turn out to be antisocial. And I'm like, oh my goodness, am I going to be a serial killer? Or will my sister be the serial killer? One of us is bound to be a serial killer because our mom wasn't home when we were younger. And as I grew up, I recognized that was a norm in my community. No, everybody's parents worked. And so I wanted to know what it was like for very high achieving professionals to parent, partner, and still be professionals at the same time. So what does it do when you have these 3 distinct roles? What does that look like? And so I sat with physicians and their spouses. 17 of them, we won't ask you to do that many interviews because this was more than, no. But sat with 17 of them, really got to understand their processes and how they were able to make this thing work. And then what I did for my chapter 4, had an opportunity therefore then show, hey, here's what these individuals are doing in order to be an effective parent, an effective partner, and an effective professional. Because guess what? Not everybody's baby is going to turn out to be antisocial because mommy wasn't home or daddy wasn't home. We can find ways to, and these couples were able to find ways to foster their career, foster their marriage, and still be amazing parents all at the same time. And so in your chapter 4, after doing those interviews, you'll write that up. You give direct quotes from those interviews that you have. And then in chapter 5, the final chapter, you'll have an opportunity to say, well, this is what my study found. And here's what research says that does or doesn't agree necessarily with my study. So some researchers have found something similar, others haven't. And mine is unique because I looked specifically potentially at individuals from this specific community. So their experiences are likely not going to be represented in the larger community, in the larger society, only because they are understudied. And we find that a lot when we think about some communities that we don't have a lot of research specific to. We have all these large studies that look at individuals from various groups, but sometimes these minority individuals, be it racial minority, religious minority, gender minorities, sexuality minorities, they aren't represented. And they need voice just as much as everybody else. And so that's what your thesis allows you to do after going through that process. Very long explanation.
To me, it was something that, as I heard it, though, I got like excited about the process. And I know that might sound strange, you know, like, but I was just like, it seems so methodical. Like, okay, this is chapter 1, chapter 2. You broke it down so well, but then also the way that you find that topic that's so personal to you and your own convictions, that it's something like, you know, I actually do want to research that. You know, I actually do want to go survey these individuals and find out what they say. So thank you for explaining it like that, because I could have heard that explained in a very different way that just sounded like a really, really long paper. And that is not an exciting process to go through. So thank you, because that actually kind of got me excited to hear.
Join us if you have any time, Mr. Lopez Patton.
Well, I am going to unshare my screen just for a moment here, only because really we've reached a point for us just to have truly that open conversation with everyone now. So it's a little bit easier for those that are looking at, you know, your cameras and everything. You just get to see a little bit bigger rather than just looking at the little thumbnails on the screen. But we're going to leave it open for questions. You know, we talked about what brought you here from your education, but really what brought you here this evening? What were you hoping to hear that we might be able to discuss? And let's have that as kind of the last kind of topic that we have here, and then we'll bring up some contact information for you as well.
Hi, my name is Alejandra. I have a question regarding the thesis. I also like the way that you presented it because it makes it feel less scary. As an English literature major, there was a lot of classes that I took that were extremely scary, and just the way that the teachers formatted the material was very difficult to understand. So my question for you would be, for the thesis, what is the format, or how lengthy is it, and what do you expect for us to do with it?
Okay, thank you, Alejandro. Extremely important question. I'll start with the length of the thesis, and most individuals do not like this response, but it's the most honest response I can give. And the length of the thesis is complete.
I love it.
Because here's the thing about it. When you think about a thesis, everyone's topic is likely going to vary in length. Only because there may be a lot of information on a specific topic. So your literature review, when you do that second chapter, may be longer than others. So it would be up to you and your chair to determine, you know, does this literature review feel complete enough? Does it cover enough of the existing literature? So it needs to be complete, and I don't have a page number for you, but certainly it's going to be over 10 pages. It's likely going to be over 20 pages. The extent of, I don't know what the end number is, but I can tell you give you an average of a beginning number. It's likely going to be over 30 pages for sure, just because you want to get into that material. In terms of expectations, it's very student driven. So your topic, it's not as if a topic is handed to you like, here's what you need to do. Not at all. If you come to when you come to your thesis class, you may have a couple ideas of things that you want to research, and that's perfectly fine. At some point, you must marry one. We can't date all our lives, right? We get nowhere. We must commit. At some point, you must commit to one topic. And so you can work with your chair to determine, based on the information available on this topic, based on where you're planning to collect your data from, if you have access to those people, or how challenging it will be to get access to those people, that can help you to therefore then determine the topic that you're going to choose. So chances are you already have an idea of what you may want to study. And I actually recommend that you come into the class with a general idea. It makes it so much easier if you have a general idea, and then you and your chair can work to narrow that topic down. So it's very student driven. You have your chair who's going to be guiding you every step of the way. And so what we actually have, Alejandra, there are classes that are designated just to thesis. And every week as you're submitting an assignment, it is an assignment towards the completed thesis. So some students wonder, do I do the thesis classes and then write my thesis? And my response is no. During these classes is when you write your thesis. So you'll be having assignments every week, and they'll ask you, do this many summaries of literature. That is for your second chapter. Work on your personal statement. That's the outcome for that week. That will go into your first chapter. Complete the institutional review board ethics training. That is going towards your methodology. So every assignment that you do weekly is leading you towards getting that completed document. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
Yes, thank you. Because that was one of my worries in the beginning when I started looking into going into a master's program. Just because I know that some people don't even complete it because they're so afraid of the thesis, and I didn't want to fall under that category. I want to kind of go in there with an idea of what I need to do, so I could start thinking of what I want to work on. Because I do feel that that would be easier for me.
And thank you too. I'm glad that you mentioned the fear surrounding thesis, and it can be scary. I understand, because when you think about a thesis and you're thinking, oh, 5 chapters and all of this writing, what I tend to ask students to focus on is the outcome, those conversations that you're going to have, and what you're going to be able to do with that information to make communities better, to provide individuals with access to information from these smaller groups that may be underrepresented. That, I hope, is going to be your motivation. Remembering too that your chair is there to help you, to motivate you. The only thing we can't do is write it for you, but we will encourage you every step of the way, providing you with tips, getting you resources, connecting you with resources. If there are specific individuals who we know in our professional networks who are experts in the area, we will do what needs to be done to get you through this. I've told students a million times in the past, maybe not a million, that's exaggerating, but numerous times in the past, while it is challenging, it is not impossible. So you're going to be stretched, and you're supposed to be stretched. It may create a little bit of anxiety, but this is not something that you cannot do. I promise you it is doable. We've structured it so that it is absolutely doable, and your chair is there to support you every step of the way.
Thank you for that.
My pleasure. Yes, we do have fieldwork opportunities, Leslie. It's called Fieldwork. Dr. Veronica Estrada is the one who's responsible for that. And it's been amazing. I was telling another group before we got to this particular call that for our fieldwork students, there are a number of agencies that have decided that they're never leaving them. They're like, no, when you graduate, you're coming back to work for us, because of the work that they've been able to do with those organizations. We have partnerships with organizations in Southern and Northern California that our fieldwork students are placed in. The course is the fieldwork course. There are required hours that you have to do. The end project is amazing, because then you have an opportunity to really analyze this organization, this agency, and understand the inner workings of it, potentially even proposing ways you can improve the operations to make this more efficient. There's one gentleman I'm recalling who worked with a higher ed institution, and they used his research to create a manual for understanding employee complaints because his experience there gave them insight that those individuals who had been employed with the organization, they didn't see it. And so being in that organization kind of as an outsider gives you an amazing opportunity to see how you can lend to the growth of this entity and to what they're doing, the services that they provide for their community. So yes, we do have a fieldwork, and it is absolutely fantastic. Literally, some of our students, they're snatching them up, and it's really exciting.
These are good questions. Any other questions from anybody?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
What you just said about the manual was actually something that I've been thinking for a couple, because of this. While teaching in China, I always understood that, and when I came back, the difference of social, not only social environment, but just I like the ecological perspective, understanding the movement between two different people from these two different countries, two of the biggest, and I was always thinking of making something like that. this thing called American psychology in a way to help more international students on a way of understanding American culture in for university students, even for parents to have, or even for even making it some ways how to say understandable to young kids and things like that. But basically a blend, some kind of blend, because what I always saw, especially from any international person that speaks another language and English is their second language, they don't, which I'm still working remotely. I'm teaching still remote, and it's this understanding of really not understanding more cultural based structure, and not only language, but just how it flows, like just expression. And just the understanding that people can understand the history and go and Google anything, but it's the research. And it's that in that American psychology kind of pamphlet that I really want to bridge that knowledge with, whether it's here or whether it's back overseas. That is something I definitely want to, in a human development, as a human development thesis, to really do the field work of really going around to not only many different connecting international schools, talking to many different international people, even a lot who have just who have been in the country, and just you see this fear, this unbelievable fear of if they don't speak English, so perfectly, it's like a failure, and they just don't bother. It's the nature of the environment is overwhelming for them. So you see all of this, and you see it so clearly as when you come back to the States, and then being around in another country for many years. So that's one thing. I don't see that. I don't see that research, that American psychology, and that's what I call it. In China they call it 美国联系, and so it's like American psychology where it's that kind of structure, and that field work. When you were talking about the manual and doing field work, and talking about the thesis and the structure of that is something that I would definitely work on, because I still have a connection to that country. Perfect. I mean, and I'm talking to people from that country, from all over that country, every day. And I just now, yesterday, told the students, I said, I was reading a paper, and they were, and I said, I just want to hear your words. I don't care if you're trying to be perfect. But they were so afraid. And it's that fear, and that can really stop, I think, children, whether it's a child, whether it's their adolescence or even university, from furthering who they want to be in society, how they want to be, and what they came to be. Every day, it's because they don't have that. I say pamphlet. So I say you got to. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm talking too much. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. No, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You've identified a gap. Yes, because you've identified a gap where if we were able to tweak something in between, maybe our outcomes would look different. And so that's a great space to be in, because you've already thought of a niche that you could help to fill, a gap that you can help to fill.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that that would be a perfect thesis for this program to do, because I still, because of the connection is so strong in that country, and I have friends there, I know their families, I know how they feel about the country, and they have family here, but they're so afraid, and they know it's not like they don't know some form of English. It's the point of they think they have to know it perfectly. And I always say, you don't need to know a language perfectly. You just need to be comfortable. I say, understand, be comfortable in it, then you don't need to worry about making mistakes. I said, I'm a native American. I'm a native person of America, speak English. And so I make mistakes all the time. And I tell them, I say gonna. I know it's supposed to be going, so it's, you can't be afraid to make mistakes. And that's the key thing within it. But that's why I want to make this American psychology. And I call it that because it's a way to just make it informal, to get in the person's head to say, oh, what does this mean? And then it gives them the steps of the sociality, the social environment of America, the social environment of people in America, because people are very afraid overseas, especially in Asia. You have a lot of that, especially in China, especially if they haven't traveled. It gives them a sense of, okay, well, what real Americans are because of all these different cultures, everybody is different. And like I tell my students, I say, if you worry about your accent and try to worry about how you talk and how you do this, you're never really going to understand that everybody in America has different accents. Everybody in America has come from somewhere. So everybody is going to talk very differently. A lot of people in Asia don't understand that they think everybody that is American in America just has one accent. So it's a lot of research.
Yeah, it sounds like there's quite a bit of research that you could do there. I'm hearing like a couple of different topics that could definitely come from that.
Love it.
We also did have a question I wanted Dr. Fider to be able to address. It was a question about the field work requirements, and just to be able to cover that as well.
Okay. And Ruth, thank you so much for this question. Yes, fieldwork is required. It's one of the required courses that you are going to complete in your master's in human development. In terms of where you're going to be able to complete that in your current organization or another, you have the option to complete your fieldwork in your current organization. Here's what we ask, that it not be the capacity or the position that you currently hold, because we want to give you an opportunity to understand another angle of that organization or company. So if you work in a specific organization, maybe in administration, maybe go to the finance folk, and then you can understand what they're doing over there, what their processes are. So certainly you can do this in your organization, but the recommendation is learn a new skill set, learn something new during this process versus staying kind of embedded and siloed in what you're familiar with. Stretch yourself. That's one of the things that we really want you to do in your master's program. Get as much information and then see how you can incorporate that new information into your current position. Because for all we know, it may be a wonderful marriage that happens from that. So it's possible for sure, Ruth. And Dr. Estrada can also work with you to help get you into a specific organization if you have a specific need or a desire to work with an organization or a nonprofit or some community site. Dr. Estrada is the perfect person because she has forged a lot of really great relationships for our fieldwork students.
Well, I am going to bring up, and again, not to just say we're at the end of our time here, but I'm going to bring up some contact information for everyone. We know that maybe you weren't able to have maybe a question that you had brought up. We weren't able to address that yet, or after the fact, sometimes questions come up and you thought, oh, I wish I had gotten a chance to ask that. So I'm going to share our contact information up on the screen for you now so that you can make note. Again, I would typically say, and I say this to anyone who is typically kind of looking into the college and a degree program, if you're working with an enrollment counselor, they are your primary individual to reach out to. So if you've got questions involved with the enrollment process, or even just some questions about what's expected of you as a student, they're the great person to go to. But based off of our conversation this evening, if you've got additional questions about the field, especially about the thesis and the types of work that happens during the thesis, obviously, we have this amazing woman, Dr. Fider, who is here to be able to work with you, answer questions, and support you there. And I've got my contact information there. I am always happy to speak with you. If you are looking for general questions about the college, you would like to know just more about our philosophy as a college, about what we stand for as an institution, happy to speak with you as well. So please make note of my contact information there. I'm always happy to speak with you. So I don't want to say we have to stop right now. So I just want to give an opportunity again, if anybody has any additional questions that we haven't addressed or any ideas that have come up that, that you'd like to talk about a little bit further, happy to do that. And then also just be respectful of everyone's time. So if anyone does need to drop off the line or anything, we totally completely understand that. You've got our contact information there, and you're certainly able to reach out to us afterwards as well.
Oh, I just have one question. Do you think you can, Dr. Fider can, and I have your contact information, Mike, Michael, Dr. Michael, or Michael, but can I don't have Dr. Fider's information. Can I get it from you in an email, send you an email? Maybe you can.
Absolutely, Cedric. I can send you an email and let you have that for you. No problem.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that was it.
All right. I don't see any more questions coming up in the chat box. Oh, we do have one.
45 hours because we do it for one semester. So it's doable. Again, you'd work with your fieldwork supervisor based on your class schedule, et cetera, Leslie, to determine what are the best days for you to be there to collect your hours. And then there's a paper that you'd have to write at the end.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We know that you obviously have your own responsibilities, your jobs, your life, your children, your family. So thank you for taking time out of your evening as well for being here with us. We hope that it was a valuable time for you to spend with us this evening. We hope you did get answers to questions, and maybe that thought of what brought you here this evening was fulfilled. So we really appreciate you being here. But please don't let this be the last time we hear from you or see you. Reach out to us. Hopefully, if you are considering this, if you have not yet already, apply.pacificoaks.edu. It's a simple process, but it's a huge step in your career, in your education, to go through the enrollment process and become a formal member of our community, so to speak, as a student here at Pacific Oaks. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you so much, Dr. Fider, for being here and for guiding us here.
Oh, and, we'll see you next year, Leslie.
Oh, I love that. That's just a few months away, coming in for spring of 21. We've got one of our future students here. That's great, Leslie. And Dr. Castro, thank you for being here as well and taking your time to be with us. And special thanks to, of course, all of you as well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Be safe.